All right, welcome to another Interview the Expert series. I'm really excited to introduce you guys to one of my favorite insurance agents. Her name is Danielle Barber. She's with Texas Classic Insurance, and she is a wealth of knowledge. And so I'm excited to dive in and ask her some of the burning questions about the insurance industry and some best practices and all that good stuff. So we'll just get started. So welcome, Danielle.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for saying yes. Thanks for agreeing to my shenanigans.
Half the battle.
Yes. So we've got a couple questions that we have gotten from just the public and what people are wanting to know or curious about insurance. So first question we'll start with is, what are the key components of a standard home insurance policy?
Okay, so every insurance policy starts off with the dwelling value, and that's determined by the insurance carrier. So it will vary dramatically from one carrier to the other one. Some carriers will just pull the appraisal district's data in because they don't really have local agents, and so they just pull that data and they drop that value in, and the insurance policy can be written off of that. And then other insurance agents will go through and they'll actually customize and adjust that data to custom fit that home. So it'll be a more accurate portrayal of that value of the home. And then from there, everything else on the insurance policy, generally speaking, is a percentage of that value. So from there you have the other structures allotment, which is going to be anything that's detached from the home and it's considered a structure. And then you have your...
Like a barn or like a shed? Mm-hmm. What about, does that mean is a guest house or like a mother-in-law suite? Is that all?
So that one is a little if in there, because is there somebody living in the guest home? Is it being rented out? So there's additional questions that we have to ask for those sort of things. But yes. Your personal property, so the items that you take from your old house and move to your new house, is going to be accounted for on there. Liability, which we hope that doesn't happen, and medical payments if somebody's injured on your property is included in the policy. And then kind of the four things that are very important to me are your 4 different water losses that could occur inside the home. You have sudden and accidental, you have seepage, which is a hidden water leak, you have a foundation water leak that could happen, and then you have water backup, which is kind of the grossest of anything that could happen. Flood is...
like you said, grossest? Is this
grossest, that is the grossest in my opinion.
So
water backup is sewage water backing up into your home.
So it smells lovely.
Yeah, divine. Let's just burn the house down now.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Don't do that. And then generally speaking, flood is pretty much always excluded on your homeowner's policy, and that's talking about specifically rising waters from Mother Nature. So
that's a really good way to explain that. I've actually never heard anybody say it that way. But yeah, people, I think oftentimes will just assume okay, whatever happens to my house, Mother Nature, it will cover it, but it depends on the specific type of policy. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay, so what factors could affect the cost of home insurance the most?
The biggest factors that will impact the rates are your FICO score, your insurance score. So your insurance score is based on your FICO score, as well as your prior liability limits that you've carried either on your auto policy or your home policy in the past, your renter's policy, those sort of things. And then from there, any losses that you may have had. So home auto losses, let's say you turned in a windshield claim 2 years ago on your auto policy. Well, now that's gonna haunt your homeowner's policy because they can surcharge for that on the homeowner's policy. There's a billion different things that are rated on it. High theft area, is it a good neighborhood? How many claims specifically happen in that area? Is it, for us in this Metroplex area, for us it's wind and hail damage. That's why insurance companies don't like insuring here, because we have a ton of roof claims in this area. So, and when you have a large storm that blows through and you are replacing thousands of roofs in a short amount of time, that's pretty detrimental to the carrier's bottom line. Yeah. But as far as that, there are so many things that the actuary tables that they program in there, and then they will tweak every 3 months, or if they notice a trend 1 month, may go in and they may adjust it. So it's kind of an always moving benchmark for the insurance companies as far as who they want to insure and where they want to target. It's constantly changing and evolving based on where they think which demographic is going to make them the most money. I think that's probably the most common misconception for people, is they think insurance companies want to insure them, and they actually don't. You need to go into looking for an insurance policy of who actually will want to insure me right now, because that's very dependent from carrier to carrier.
It's not a one size fits all, for sure.
It is not one size fits all for sure.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really good point to bring up too, about all the factors that affect insurance, because, you know, like, I have so many people that have bought houses and their insurance is one thing 1 year, and they get a renewal and they're like, I don't understand. Why am I being penalized? I didn't file any claims. My credit score hasn't changed. And so they feel like it's something that I did, or, you know, whatever the case may be, but it really isn't. It's all the actuarial tables that are just, now we are higher risk for whatever reason because of what other people are doing. Like, you're not the one filing claims, but your neighbors probably all did or something. So that's a really good point. Okay. So how much coverage should homeowners really have, and is the minimum enough?
It kind of depends on where you want to play your odds, and I really feel like this is a very personalized assessment of each individual person, because if I'm working with, let's say, a homeowner who owns a construction company, or let's say they are investors or they're flippers, they're going to want the bare minimum coverage. They're not going to want me to insure everything. They're not going to claim anything, so they don't want to waste the money on it. They want the highest deductibles offered. They want to check the box from the mortgage company, and they want to move on with their life. And then you have the majority of people who, if it were me, I want to be overinsured. I don't want to be underinsured. So me personally, I have every type of water coverage on my house. I overinsure my home for inflation purposes. So I always add on what's called 25% extended replacement cost. If I feel like we're in a really bad inflation moment, then I may increase that up to 50%. And I'm watching what building costs are doing, or labor costs are doing, and that sort of thing. It's very personalized to each person, but I would say most people, you definitely want to be overinsured versus under, because we're talking about the difference of maybe $10 a month.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a large asset to pull from to supplement and try to self-insure. Recover. And that's so interesting. You know, it's kind of wild, the number of people that have come to me. They have a paid off home, and so they want to leverage their equity, or maybe it's a situation where someone inherited a home for whatever reason. They, you know, don't have a mortgage on it and they don't have any insurance, because in their mind it's, well, I don't need to have it. I'm not required to have it. Right. And okay, so you're self-insuring from where? Right. And it's really scary, because if something devastating happens, like, that's a big asset that you're, you know, that you're having to try and recover from. So
what if that house burns down? Do you have the $400,000 it costs to, you know, rebuild that property as it stands, or are you going to just have that loss and just have a little, here's my dirt.
So yes, definitely it's important to understand coverage and all of that. Absolutely. So we actually have talked about this a little bit. We touched on floods. So the question is, how does home insurance work when it comes to natural disasters like floods or tornadoes? So I know we kind of talked about natural disasters when it comes to your standard homeowners insurance policy, which is the hazard insurance. But when it comes to like the flood policy, or does tornadoes fall under like the normal policy?
Tornadoes will fall under your wind and hail deductible. Okay. Unless there's something really crazy and there's like a hurricane in there, and then we have a flood occur. Like, for the most part, they're looking for what was the initial point of loss. Okay. And they're basing your claim based on that occurrence.
I gotcha. So with flood, I think oftentimes people are like, well, I'll shop my flood insurance around. I'm like, I don't know if that's necessary. So do you want to touch on kind of flood insurance?
So flood insurance, it is what it is. It's, in all honesty, it's not worth shopping it around from year to year. There are some private flood markets that have popped up in the last few years. So if you happen to have a private flood policy, it's worth looking at it to make sure it didn't swing a crazy swing or anything like that. But for the most part, those flood rates are set by FEMA.
Right.
And so it's going to be...
every carrier will be the same.
Every carrier will pretty much be the same. There's some little minor adjustments, but we're talking nothing worth writing home about. I mean, they're going to be very minor discrepancies between carrier to carrier.
And I feel like I recently saw an article about, like, did FEMA, they're like having to like renew something, or I don't know. I should have pulled the article up, but it was like, are they out of money? What's happening? I don't know. So there's a lot of things that could affect that. Okay, so what should first-time home buyers know about insurance before purchasing a home?
Be prepared for the first year that you buy your home for the insurance to be the cheapest it's ever going to be. As you are living in that home, every year that rate is more than likely going to increase. The only time it generally will go down historically, because right now we're in a very different insurance market, is when you put a new roof on your home. You get that fresh new roof discount, which is wonderful. It stays on there for the first 5 years of the brand new roof, and then from there your rates will start swinging upward again, because then anywhere between 5 and 10 years, especially in our area, insurance companies are looking to replace that roof. So the first year expected to be the cheapest, and then budget accordingly from there. I would say the sweet spot is try to move about every 2 years. You don't want to move
carriers.
Yeah, move carriers. You really don't want to hop around a whole lot, because then all of a sudden carriers,
they know that
you tank your insurance score. It affects all that, and then your rates will go up. Especially right now, a lot of people that have hopped around in the past, it's biting them. And if you preterm cancel an insurance policy, that's also can be reflected on your insurance score as well.
Okay, gotcha. That's actually really good to know. I did not know that. Look at me learning stuff today. Been in the business for a long time, and I thought I knew a lot. All right, so, okay, are there discounts or savings opportunities that homeowners should know about when like bundling or?
Absolutely. So right now it's pretty much required. Insurance companies are just not accepting what's called a monoline homeowners risk. And it's
monoline. That sounds like a train.
Right. So basically that just means that if you only want to put your home with a carrier, insurance companies are like, we're not interested. Go to somebody else. And so insurance companies are looking for that home and auto bundle specifically so that they can balance their loss ratios. So if they have a loss on the home, they'll still be hopefully profitable on the autos, is kind of what they're planning for and prioritizing. And so most carriers, I would say probably 11 out of 12 that's currently writing business for us in the Metroplex, they're all requiring bundles. They all require it. If you're not putting the auto with it, they're just not interested in the home. They have zero desire to insure the home. And so that's kind of and it's also going to be your biggest savings. It can be anywhere from a 10 to a 20% savings on the home insurance policy. From there, you have things that like a monitored home alarm will be a very small discount. It's not worth installing one for the discount, but if you already have one, it's an opportunity for you there.
So monitored, so it can't just be like your normal, like it's like an app on your phone or something. It has to actually have like a...
It has to be actively monitored. And a new roof discount is good. Things like plumbing, HVAC, and your electrical. So those are your big things that insurance companies want to know about. For plumbing, a lot of times they will require...
Like how new it is, basically.
If you live in a really, really old home and you've done a major update on the plumbing, they may request like a plumbing inspection, and they'll go in and Johnny's actually done this before. They'll go in and like scope the lines to know what kind of lines are in there, what kind of plumbing, is it PVC versus PEX and that sort of thing. So
hey, they can come look at whatever they want if they're going to give me a discount.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With like with Safeco, it's a huge discount if you have it done. So it's definitely worth getting the plumbing inspection for if you're insured with Safeco and you're living in an older home.
Can it hurt you though if you're not confident about it, how new it is?
No, because you control that inspection. So let's say you get that inspection back from the inspector that you requested do it, and it doesn't say what you thought it was going to say. You just don't turn it in.
Okay.
So don't put the update on there until you know for sure that that was truly updated.
That's the answer you want.
Yeah.
Selective disclosure.
Yeah, because if you say you've had an update and you really haven't, that will bite you.
Yeah.
They will absolutely find out.
Yeah. They do not mess around.
They don't. And right now they're requesting, our biggest request for underwriters is proof of roof replacements from like 3 and 4 years ago. And so we're having to go back to clients and like, do you happen to have the receipt from when you bought your roof 4 years ago?
The company's still in business and they give us another one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. They want to, hey, in their State of the Union, it makes sense for them to do that. Okay, so you mentioned earlier replacement costs. So this actually is a question about that. So what is the difference between actual cash value and replacement cost in a policy?
That is a very good question. So replacement cost means that they're going to replace the home for like. So whenever the agent wrote the policy, they went in and they determined the real value of that home and what it would cost to replace the 2x4s, the nails, the screws, drywalls, the cost for shingles. And they included all that in the policy, and that's the value of the home. Now for actual cash value, they're going to depreciate all the values out of everything, and then they're going to pay you out that replacement cost minus the depreciated amount.
Well, that sounds like could be a scary number.
It could be a scary number. And the other thing you want to be careful about is, let's say your insurance policy was written 10 years ago and you've just let it just renew, and you've never looked at it, and you never looked at the value of your home since then. You could accidentally be in actual cash value and not know it, because insurance companies require an 80% co-insurance requirement. So if you've dropped below that 80% threshold unknowingly, it is ultimately your own fault, because you're supposed to be responsible and look at these documents every year. Then you could have fallen into the actual cash value.
Read your insurance renewal documents.
Read those
That'd
documents.
Be great. Great stuff.
Ask your agent questions. That's what we're here for. Dig into it. I know nobody likes insurance and everybody thinks it's boring, but
gotta have it.
Your agents, we generally get pretty nerdy about it, and we love talking about it. So call us and ask all the questions.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so how does home insurance interact with like home renovations or upgrades? Like you kind of already talked to us about this a little bit, but like if someone's doing like a major renovation, do they need to let their agent know? Like,
yes.
Okay.
And most people don't realize this. So let's say you're doing a major renovation and you're like, you know what? I want this wall to come out. Let's open this up. We want the big walk-through kitchen and living room area. And you took that wall out and you had a collapse. Then all of a sudden, that is not a payable claim, because you didn't disclose to the insurance company that you were renovating and moving a wall. So in those situations, there's a builder's risk policy for you that will handle all of those things. So
it should be like a separate policy almost that you're getting.
It is a separate policy, yeah. Insurance companies don't want to deal with your home while it's being renovated.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. So there's a lot more.
Now, if you're going in and you're doing cosmetic updates, you're changing out cabinets or wall colors, that sort of thing, that's not a big deal. You proceed as normal, but for major renovations, definitely loop your insurance agent in.
Yeah. Okay, what are some common mistakes that homeowners make when it comes to their insurance policy? I think I know one. Probably just not reading.
Not reading, assuming that you're covered for something you're not, misinterpreting. Like a lot of people will assume they see, like, one of the ways insurance companies disclose foundation water damage is they'll just put foundation coverage on there. They don't actually tell you that it's foundation water coverage. And so they assume that, you know, as their house is cracking and settling, that they're covered for that, and that's not what that's about. General wear and tear and routine homeowner maintenance is not covered on your insurance policy. Pests, things like that, are not covered on your insurance policy. So anything that's basically not sudden and accidental, you're generally going to be excluded from on your insurance policy. And the big one is so important. Always call your agent, never call the carrier. If you're unsure about a claim, call your agent first. Otherwise, if you call the carrier, it can be logged as what's called a $0 claim.
Ooh, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, you don't want to activate the $0 claim because once it's on there, you can't remove it. It doesn't matter if it's $0 and it was, just a conversation with the carrier. It's ultimately still a claim because they think there's something that has happened in that home that has occurred, and that's why you're calling and asking the questions. So
yeah, that's a really good point. So if you guys got nothing else from this, call your agent, not the carrier.
Yes.
Very good tip. Okay, so I have another so these are really specific more to me and my clients, because I want to make sure that we're setting folks up for success. So how early in the process should a home buyer start obtaining quotes for insurance? The answer is different now than it used to be.
It is very different. I would say the minute you've received approval that your contract was accepted.
Okay.
Loop in your agent immediately and let them start doing their work, because a lot of times we're not sitting around waiting on customers to come. We're actively working on stuff prior requests. And so I know for me, generally, once I get a request in, it's still going to probably be 2 or 3 days before I can actively get to that client sometimes. And then underwriters right now are a joy to work with. It's not their fault. It's the carriers. They've put in these restrictions. Yeah. They will put 15-day business day holds on there.
Woof.
And so,
that's 3 weeks.
That's 3 weeks. So you could delay your home just because you sat for 2 weeks and didn't call your agent and go, hey, I'm buying a new house. Can you get me a policy? And then all of a sudden, this is the only carrier that's a potential for this house. And now we have a 15-day business hold on it.
Yeah.
And so those things are happening, and they're happening more and more commonly. And then there's a lot of hoops to jump through. Again, you have to remember, insurance companies do not want to insure you right now.
Yeah.
So they are putting in these ridiculous barriers and these ridiculous requirements to send in to basically, it's kind of like your way of begging them, please insure this house for me so that I can get through closing. Just jump through those hoops. Don't make it harder on your insurance agent. We can't bend the rules for you because we have to ultimately send it in and the underwriters check a box. So as soon as possible is the short answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Okay, so let's talk about manufactured homes, since we do have quite a bit of these lovely mohos here in Texas. What is, yes.
I've never heard them called.
What?
I've never heard them.
No way. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to do a little side pivot story here. Whenever I was first getting into the business, a lot of people are scared of mobile homes, and so I self-named myself the Moho Queen, because why not? Someone's got to wear that title.
Absolutely. And
get me a sash.
And I'm quirky enough I carry it proudly. Let's do this.
Yes. Okay. So, so what are unique about insuring manufactured homes compared to just a standard single family detached home?
So in general, the main thing you need to remember about a mobile home is it does depreciate. It's not like a home that will appreciate over time, and there's a lot of value that or equity that gets returned to you in the long run. Mobile homes are not designed to be 100-year homes, right? And they will break down, and sometimes people move them, and that makes them a little more
which that makes it a lot of loan programs won't do it if it's been moved more than once.
Yeah, because it compromises the integrity of the home at that point. So mobile homes are a little bit harder to insure. The rates are going to be a little bit higher because it is a riskier home for them to insure. If they go up in flames, they're going to go up in flames. It's a lot quicker than your standard home. And let's see.
What about age?
The age is super dependent. So some carriers will only insure them at replacement cost up to 20 years. Some carriers will do 10, and there is one carrier in particular that will do 30 years on it. However, that 30-year carrier will not write in Tarrant County right now. So
Okay. Do not buy an old manufactured home in Tarrant County.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal.
Okay. So I think we have two more questions. So condos, we do have some condos in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I think more prevalently in the Dallas area. But how does condo insurance policies compare to single family?
They're cheaper.
They're cheaper. Totally different types of policies, right?
Yes, so it is a totally different policy. You do have to pay attention to what your condo association puts you on the hook for in the event of a loss, because that really varies from condo association to condo association. Sometimes you're off the hook for the roof if the roof needs to be replaced, and then there's other times where it's just studs in is all you're responsible for in the event of a loss. So it can vary. You have to really pay attention to what your particular contract holds you responsible for. But generally speaking, condo insurance is so much cheaper than a homeowner's policy, because you're just insuring the studs in, basically, and then your personal contents. So it's priced accordingly.
Yeah, so just the finish outs, and yeah, makes sense. Okay, the last, and I think if maybe the most important question is, the State of the Union, here in Texas, we've definitely had some insurance challenges with claims and carriers, and Mother Nature just really has not been super kind to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So can you kind of shed a little light on what's happened over the last few years in regards to carriers?
So the quickest way to the Cliff's Notes version is, even 16 months ago, we had over 100 insurance companies that would insure in the state of Texas. We now have like a dozen. And I'm not elaborating. That's not a dramatized number. That's it. That's all we have. Carriers have gone out of business. They've gone bankrupt. They've been bought out to save. That client's portfolio or that book has been brought in by other carriers to kind of rescue them, so to speak. And then insurance companies are just tired of hemorrhaging money in Texas specifically. We have 3 problem children in the U.S., and it's California, Florida, and Texas. And Texas sometimes really rivals Florida and California as far as which state is the most expensive to insure. Right now, I think Florida's going to win. It's not a good thing. But with our current loss, that's a very devastating loss that is going to impact all of us nationwide on our rates. It will impact Texas, and things, in my opinion, will probably get way worse in the next year and a half before they get better. There's only been one carrier that I know of that's reported a profit, and it was Progressive in the fourth quarter of last year, and it was only on the auto insurance side. What you should know about Progressive is they are the largest auto insurance company in the world. So if they're having losses in the US, they're probably balancing those over in Europe. So for them, it's a total numbers game for them. So insurance companies just in general lose money on the home side. They're trying to figure out a way to make it work. If I had my way, I would say to extend the Texas Wind and Hail program, because that's a totally separate insurance policy that affects our coastal regions. I would say bring it all the way up through the Metroplex and kind of expand out a little east and west. That, to me, it's already an established program. It would solve a lot of problems. It would take the roof off of the prior insurance company or the current insurance company, give them a little relief there. But insurance companies in general, we are seeing last year carriers went to 2% wind and hail deductibles. This year we see them pushing the bar to 3 and 5. I've already seen one particular carrier in particular, if you make it through their 15-day business window, they will only offer you a 5% wind and hail deductible.
Wow.
So I would say my best advice that I give my clients all the time is take the higher deductible and start a roof savings account. Put the money that you would save between the 3% and the 5% deductible, because sometimes it can be $1,000, $1,500, and throw it in a high yield savings account. Keep that money for yourself. Don't give it to the insurance company, because while you may have a 2 or 3% deductible this year, it's unlikely you'll have it next year. Insurance companies are going to keep, the minute they see one carrier do it, they're going to keep pushing that number up until they stop hemorrhaging money or balance, or they're not buying a roof at all, which is ultimately, I feel like, where we're headed.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you have really shared a lot of great information today, Danielle. Really appreciate your expertise. So if somebody wants to reach out to you and wants to get your opinion, obviously I think can you do business in all of Texas? What are the areas that you serve?
I am licensed for all of Texas, so statewide.
Okay, awesome. And so how would someone reach out to you?
You can call me on my cell phone. It's 817-618-3747, or you can shoot me an email at danielle@txcins.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.